Welcome to our presentation. Today, we will be reviewing a journal article. This journal article is titled Learning Communities and Team-Based Learning, Developing Management and Business. The focus of this journal article was to discuss ways to improve online learning experience. The authors of this journal believed that in order to improve online learning experience for their students, it was very essential to build effective learning communities. The authors also believed that in order to make online education a successful one, two things matter most: the course design and the student interaction. And this journal primarily focuses on the student interaction component. The authors introduced this term team-based learning and further moved on how they can improve online education using this team-based learning method. So, what is team-based learning? By definition, team-based learning refers to a particular instructional strategy that is designed to support the development of high-performance learning team and provide opportunities for these teams to engage in significant learning tasks. Many online learning strategies now incorporate team-based learning, but some of them don't call it team-based learning. Let's look at a video and see what do they call it.
The market is worth over $2.3 trillion. Approximately $70 billion of that is dedicated towards e-learning. My name is Sarah Taft.
And my name is Elliot Thompson, and we are the business leaders of Collaboralearn. The e-learning market has a great deal of potential, and many companies are tapping into this market today. However, there's currently a void in the market that is not being filled.
What, you may ask? Well, through the nursing faculty here at the University of New Brunswick, we've discovered the lack of e-learning resources available for a team-based learning style. This learning technology will not only enhance students' education through a team-based learning approach, but it will save the professors and students time by receiving immediate results on testing, reduce class materials and need for TAs, provide a user-friendly platform, and most importantly, will provide a holistic and modern learning experience. This will create a mutual relationship for the students, professors, and for the university.
Using a different term, Collaboralearn, this university also engages in team-based learning. So let's look further into what are the characteristics of team-based learning. Team-based learning practically centers around a small group learning that emphasizes student preparation out of class and application of knowledge in class, where students are usually given a topic first, they go back, do research about the topic, come back online and discuss about this particular topic. This team-based learning is ideal for co-learning strategies and promotes deep learning. This is because when students come back with their research materials and discuss about it and argue about it, they actually are learning about it even more deeper. This is suitable for learning and inquiry via networking. This is also a very convenient method for synchronous and asynchronous learners. And most of all, this team-based learning involves critical thinking and collaboration. Team-based learning, is it a good thing or a bad thing? When we evaluate team-based learning's outcome, found out that students can develop problem-solving skills through this team-based learning, which the normal method of learning does not facilitate. However, there are some limitation to its team-based learning. When learning can be limited when there is a lack of preparation. If students are not prepared enough, then discussion will not follow and thus reduce the learning capacity. Cultural diversity is also a limitation. When students bring together their cultural background, other students need to respect these differences in order for discussion to be smooth and not lead to an argument. Technical issues is another concern. When you have you do not have the proper software, or your internet connection is bad, all this can also be a problem. And learners' participation. If you have a member in the group who's not participating, who's not providing information, who's not engaging themselves in discussions and providing feedback, learning is not optimal as well. Okay, so that's a bit about what team-based learning is all about. So now, how to account for the challenges in the team-based learning in order for us to reach success in this type of learning? Our authors have outlined a few strategies. These strategies include when team-based learning is established, students should know exactly what is expected. Students should be clear on what they need to do. The contents of what the students are learning should be relevant to their real world. Groups for this team-based learning should be formed early on. Well, the idea of this is so that these team members can get to know each other, and there would be a sort of bond between them, some cohesiveness, and they can know more about each other, and this can actually facilitate discussion to be much more smoother. Instructors should monitor progress and give feedback in a timely manner, and should facilitate whether they are on the right track or not, and direct them back on the right track if they're not. And in order for this team-based learning to be successful, sufficient time should be given for students to do their discussion so that learning can actually take place. When we were studying these strategies, we couldn't help but notice these strategies actually motivate students to gain more knowledge. How is this? Let's look at the first three strategies. Contents which are relevant to the real world. Student needs to be clear on what they need to do, and student needs to know what is expected of them. All this actually relates back to Maslow's hierarchy of need theory, safety needs. All these three strategies are actually fulfilling the safety need. Student will feel safe to study, student will feel safe to look for knowledge when they know what is expected of them, when they know clearly what they need to do, and when they know this is relevant to them. Let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of need. According to his theory, he says that if your lower needs are fulfilled, then you will be motivated to reach your higher needs. Looking at this pyramid, on the fifth level is the need to know and understand level. And of course, learning, when we want our students to learn, we must make sure that their lower needs are actually fulfilled. And looking at those strategies just now, number one, first, safety needs are being fulfilled. Secondly, forming groups early. By forming these groups early and forming cohesiveness between group members, the belongingness and love needs are being fulfilled, right? Next, monitoring and giving feedback. When instructors monitor students' work and give them appropriate feedback, these instructors are actually feeding their esteem, letting them know that they are doing right, letting them know that they have learned something and they need to move on. This is fulfilling their esteem needs. Okay? And then giving them time to go back and learn about it feeds their need to know and understand. So this strategy is actually an excellent strategy to actually motivate students to incorporate in learning. And if you look in further, this actually facilitates a constructivistic kind of learning strategy. How cool is that? Okay. So coming back to the purpose of this research, the researcher was interested to find out how to overcome these challenges that happens in team-based learning. How can we practice all the strategies that was mentioned just now? And these researchers identified that it could be rubrics. So this research was aimed to find out if students value rubric in their team-based learning process. So in order to find this out, a survey was done on 4 different elements. Showed that for online discussion, the rubrics actually help the students to be clear. 80% of them said, yes, it was clear, rubrics were good. The next question, how much does the rubrics help them to evaluate their own work? 50% of them said that it helped them for online discussion, and 55% of them said that it helped them greatly in their homework. When specifically asking how much did students value the rubric when they are doing their homework, 90% of them said it was clear for them. And finally, when they were asked how did this team-based learning work for them, 60% of them said that they did learn something from this team-based learning, but 20% of them disagreed that they did not learn as much. Further recommendations were also made in this survey, and it was found that for an ideal size would be for not to be more than 10 people in a group. Now, looking at these survey results, a question arises: can we generalize these findings? Reviewing it further, we found that these findings are only from one survey. And looking at the discussion that the authors have given, there were not many literature cited in it. Plus, the literatures that were discussed were from 2005 to 2010. Nothing from recent studies. Most of all, the question of generalizability arose when it was found that this survey only had 20 people as respondents. Statistically, it would not be a good number to form generalizations. And finally, all the respondents of this survey was from one discipline, which was the business discipline. They were all business administration program students. Again, the question arises, can we generalize this finding to everyone? This is something that we need to think about. Probably more research needs to be done in assessing how much these rubrics actually contribute in the team-based learning. We can't conclude it just yet. But anyway, in this research, from these findings, these researchers concluded that frequent interaction is important for team-based learning. Faculty must guide, engage, and focus student learning. Learning happens when all members are active. Small groups are ideal for team-based learning. Rubrics will definitely be helpful to students and instructors. It is helpful for students in a way that they can know what is expected of them in that particular course. They can perform well because they know what to do exactly. They can also monitor their own progress, whether are they on the right track, and they themselves can define their quality better because they know what is good and what is bad. Instructors can also benefit from these scoring rubrics because it eases evaluation and feedback. It's an effective tool for them to evaluate their students' work, and it helps them to score it objectively because it's all already written in the rubric. And having rubrics allows peer review. Other groups can evaluate and give feedback on other groups' performance. because there is a scoring rubric. And when peers help do these reviews, lecturers or instructors actually can reduce their time in evaluation and providing feedback. And all these leads to effective online learning. Let's look at a video.
High touch is more important than high tech. When a student is in crisis or a student wants to brainstorm an idea, and when they need a question answered, I want to be efficient. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the telephone. And so that's a real high touch way that has been really effective for me. And I had really avoided it for a long time because I thought, no, that's really not the technology of online education. But everything is the technology of online education.
Establish social presence using digital storytelling. When you start in a face-to-face classroom, when that professor comes in, you're looking at their clothes, the way they act, the jokes, the stories, all these things. You size up who they are, right? So for me, one of the things I leveraged or I relied on was the power of storytelling. And so the power of storytelling, telling stories is a great way to establish your presence and to help students get to know each other as real people.
Use technology intentionally. I think we get so excited, I know I do, about new tools and new digital communities and the social media tools and technologies that we can use to really enhance what we're trying to achieve with students in our courses. But we sometimes let the tool sort of drive our decision making as opposed to going back to our learning objectives and saying, what do we really want to achieve? Does the tool help us achieve that? Just because we get really excited.
The power of external resources. There's tons of resources out there that if you just take the time to look, it's amazing what you can use to supplement your online courses. And so you don't have to do all the work yourself. It doesn't always have to be contained in the LMS or in the textbook. And hopefully through that also help encourage and teach your students that there's great resources out there if you just spend the time.
Make your expectations explicit. Being explicit in your directions, in your expectations, in everything that you are trying to achieve with students. That so often we keep that secret, we keep that hidden as faculty. We know what it is. Sometimes we don't even know that we're keeping it hidden.
Make it really easy for students to find out what is it they have to do that week, when does it due, what are the points, what's it worth, those types of things.
Fun and playfulness and the unexpected. Doing something that's different can really jolt them and re-energize them and re-engage them in a way that allows them to express themselves creatively. So that it's not just writing an essay, but let's write a screenplay that demonstrates your understanding of these concepts. So anything that adds a little playfulness, I think just re-engages people and makes the online experience not feel so cookie cutter.
You have to log in regularly. You probably should plan at least 5 days a week to be logging in your course. Now that doesn't mean you have to log in, all day, 5 days a week, right? Sometimes people, I think, misconstrue that and will say things like, well, online learning is just so much more work than face-to-face. I don't necessarily buy that, but it's very distributed. The faculty that I know that are the most successful, in my own experience, has been they log in regularly to their courses. The power of personal feedback. One of the things that I find that students really value and that they take away from is when they get specific individual feedback that's meaningful. And by not just giving feedback, but giving audio-video feedback, I've had students come back to me and really comment on how it was very meaningful to hear that even the inflection in my voice, and that they could actually walk away with the positive comments. Whereas a lot of times when you just type stuff out, the negative just kind of comes through, right?
So that was a video about 8 lessons learned in online teaching, and these 8 lessons were similar to these authors' conclusion of this research, especially on making explicitly what the student needs to know about their course. So in conclusion, what we found that in order to improve online education, effective learning community need to be established. And in establishing these effective learning communities, student interaction is very important. This student interaction can be made optimum in team-based kind of learning, plus adding on the rubrics. So it makes for the students easy, the instructors also easy. So that is our review of this journal article.